State Senator Kevin De Leon shakes hands with supporters during an event held in Los Angeles on October 18 to formally announce his run for the U.S. Senate. Jae C. HongAssociated Press Good morning. Want to get California Today by email? Here's the sign up. Please note a California Today newsletter from June was sent out in error yesterday. Apologies for the confusion. Today's introduction is written by Adam Nagorny, our Los Angeles bureau chief. Just over 2 weeks ago, Kevin De Leon, the Democratic leader of the California State Senate since 2014, announced he was challenging Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, in a primary. 2 days later, the Los Angeles Times reported that 140 women, legislative aides, lobbyists and state lawmakers, had signed a letter attesting to an atmosphere of pervasive UAL misconduct in the Capitol. That has set off a 2-week examination not only of the male-dominated culture of Sacramento but also of what is, by every account, a flawed system for reporting UAL harassment in the Senate and the Assembly. Within hours of the letter, Mr. De Leon put out a statement applauding the courage of women working in and around the Capitol who are coming forward. Later he announced that the Senate had hired outside consultants to look into allegations of UAL misconduct, and to review the policies and procedures now in place for collecting UAL harassment complaints. Would that be enough? Perhaps not. Major surgery is required, and De Leon is offering a band-aid, said Nathan Ballard, a Democratic strategist who is supporting Ms. Feinstein. This will be a big issue that dogs De Leon at every campaign stop until he does the right thing. A press release isn't going to make it go away. The California Democratic Party Women's Caucus also called for the appointment of an outside independent body, denouncing secret proceedings in which women are forced to bring their complaints to superiors and fellow workers. The Assembly has scheduled open public hearing to spotlight flaws in the system. And on Monday night, Mr. De Leon issued a statement acknowledging the extent of the problem. Unfortunately, as we've learned in recent days, the system doesn't work if the employees it's designed to protect don't have complete trust and confidence in it, he said. Mr. De Leon said he had ordered a re-evaluation of those policies with the intention of replacing or strengthening our current process with a trauma-informed set of policies that all our employees, and the women who work in and around the Capitol, can be assured will protect them. California Online. Please note we regularly highlight articles on news sites that have limited access for non-subscribers. Sarah and John Shepard and their children, Kai, left, and Cressa. Kai D's fire tore into the family's neighborhood in Redwood Valley on October 9. Cressa D from her injuries on Sunday. Irma Muniz, via Associated Press. A 17-year-old D from Burns suffered during the Wine Country fires. Her 14-year-old brother D earlier. The teenager's parents are both hospitalized with severe injuries. The Press Democrat. It's probably the largest modern disaster here in Mendocino County, said a fire battalion chief. But nobody is paying attention. San Francisco Chronicle. Democrats now see Orange County, the birthplace of Richard Nixon, as a place that can help them retake the House next year. KQED. Douglas Tompkins, the billionaire founder of North Face who in 2015, didn't leave a nickel to his daughters in the Bay Area. Now a legal battle is being waged over his fortune. San Francisco Chronicle. Kevin Spacey has played the lead character in the Netflix drama House of Cards since it debuted in 2013. Nicholas Cam. Agence France Press. Getty Images. Netflix said the show House of Cards would end after its 6th season. That came shortly after Kevin Spacey was accused of making a UAL advance toward a 14-year-old boy in the 1980s. The New York Times. More women accused Harvey Weinstein of rape and groping, expanding the time frame of accusations against him to the 1970s. The timeline is now 4 decades long. The New York Times. Bruce Maxwell, the Oakland A's catcher who was the only Major League Baseball player to take a knee during the national anthem, was arrested after a woman accused him of pointing a gun at her. East Bay Times. The first big snowstorm of the winter season is headed toward the Sierra Nevada. The Mercury News. Mark Hamill at home in Malibu with a family dog, Millie. To Lila Graven. For the New York Times. Mark Hamill has always embraced his Star Wars legacy, but when he was invited back for The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, he hesitated. I was just really scared. The New York Times' Stephen J. Ross' new history Hitler in Los Angeles tells the story of the spy ring that helped foil Nazi plans in Hollywood. The New York Times' nearly a dozen travel writers came up with a list of California's best attractions, then put them to a popular vote to create a top 10 ranking. Number 1. San Diego's Balboa Park. USA Today Front Yard, El Sobrante, Calif. 2016. Timothy Archibald photos. For several years, Timothy Archibald has photographed how his neighbors in the Bay Area town of El Sobrante celebrate Halloween. The New York Times. And finally, River Phoenix during the filming of Dark Blood, the last film that the actor worked on. Miami International Film Festival, via Associated Press. In the early 1990s, River Phoenix was regarded as among the most promising actors of his generation. Standout performances in films like Stand By Me, My Own Private Idaho and Running on Empty, for which he earned an Oscar nomination, made him a darling of the critics, and a heartthrob of American teenagers. Then, at age 23, Mr. Phoenix collapsed and died outside a West Hollywood club on this day in 1993. The cause was drug overdose. Mr. Phoenix was supremely gifted, said Gavin Edwards, author of Last Night at the Viper Room, a biography of Mr. Phoenix. He was right alongside Brad Pitt, Keanu Reeves and that whole generation, but just before they started to get huge, he said. And there were all these people after he died who said, you know, he was the one who had it. He had this spark. On the night of his death, he was at the Viper Room, a magnet for young actors and Indians on the Sunset Strip. Johnny Depp, a co-owner of the club, was there. So was Leonardo DiCaprio, Christina Applegate, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Mr. Phoenix siblings Joaquin and Rain. At some point, Mr. Phoenix consumed heroin and cocaine and began having seizures on the sidewalk outside the club, Mr. Edwards said. Efforts to revive him failed. The loss of River Phoenix was widely mourned. Yet he never quite attained the folk hero status of other talented figures who die young, such as James Dean. That may have something to do with Mr. Phoenix acting credits, which remained thin at his young age. But Mr. Edwards has another theory. His death was overshadowed by that of another young star. 5 months after the night at the Viper Room, Nirvana's Kurt Cobain fatally shot himself. It's sort of strange to think there's this economy of attention in death, Mr. Edwards said. But there is. California Today goes live at 6 a.m. Pacific Time weekdays. Tell us what you want to see. Today at nytimes.com. The California Today columnist, Mike McFate, is a third-generation Californian, born outside Sacramento and raised in San Juan Capistrano. He lives in Los Osos. Follow him on Twitter. California Today is edited by Julie Bloom, who grew up in Los Angeles and graduated from UC Berkeley.